Number 7. How can we overcome evil deeds without depending on God? Now this is a very big problem. Because all the other religions depend on God, seeking some sort of forgiveness. But Buddhism never talks anything about forgiveness of sins or the evil deeds. It is easy for us to depend on or to create some ideas in our mind that there must be somebody who controls everything and who is responsible for everything. And our duty is to obey and pray. After that, we may get some sort of forgiveness to get rid of the effects of certain bad deeds or the sins that we have committed. Now this is a common belief. So when you study the teachings of the Buddha in various discourses, he has mentioned that there is nobody in this world or in any part of the world where that so-called supernatural living beings who can forgive or wash away the effects of the evil deeds that we have committed. We can refer to Dhammapada and various other discourses in simple language. He says, Attanava katang kammang Attana sankilissati. Attana akatang kammang Attanava visujyati. That means the good and bad deeds that we have performed during our lifetime, being done by us with intention, and we are responsible for that. Our knowledge or our understanding is important earlier for us to avoid such evil deed and to do certain good deeds. But after committing evils, religions, especially Buddhism, never support the idea of asking the forgiveness of the sins that we have committed. If there is somebody who can forgive our sins, some people say indirectly he encourages us to commit sins because we believe there is somebody to forgive us. We never take the responsibility. So if we can understand that we are solely responsible for our behavior, our way of thinking, our way of doing things, then we know how to take precautions, protection, avoid without committing evil deeds. Even then, the nature of our mind is such that very easily mind can be influenced through various internal and external provocation, disturbances and temptation. Then we won't be able to control our own mind because we have not trained the mind earlier. That is why training is important. Untrained mind is the main cause of all our bad deeds. So the method introduced by the Buddha for us to train this mind is called meditation. He never encouraged us to go and worship or pray and to perform various kinds of religious rites and rituals. But those practices are important for various other reasons. But these things never trained our mind, never purify our mind, never eradicate the deeply rooted evil forces from the mind. So without training this mind, after committing all sorts of evils, the Buddha never encouraged people to go and pray and worship him or anybody else. But there are certain mistakes we commit. Many of them are not sinful. Use that word, very easy to understand. They are mistakes. At that time, we have not created either hatred or jealousy or anger or any evil thoughts in our mind. Without creating such evil thought, we can make a lot of mistake. Create misunderstanding, hurt others' feeling, disturb others physically or mentally. These are the things that we can eradicate by asking forgiveness, because they are not sins. Now take for instance, you come to know that some people have created some misunderstanding or enmity because of your way of talking or certain words that you have used or certain things that you have done. But you never had such ideas in your mind to disturb or to create any problem. But when you come to know, then you can go and meet that person, talk to him frankly. Then we can, please forgive me. After that, no more effect. And this method is very common, and it is not under that category of sins. So whatever we have committed with bad thought, which we regard as bad karma, these karmas are so strong, and another person cannot purify that person's mind to forgive or to eradicate the bad karmic effects. Then what are we going to do? We know very well that we are not perfect. We make mistakes. We do commit evil or bad deeds under the influence of our selfishness or desire or ignorance or our anger. To clarify this, in the same book, Dhammapada, there is another saying. Yocha pubbe pamajjitva vajjhaso nappamajjati soimang lokang pabhaseti abbha mutto chandima. People who have committed certain evil deeds due to their ignorance or misunderstanding or due to various other reasons, by realizing that these things are wrong, create more miseries and problems and worries and sufferings, then decide not to repeat, not to commit such evil deeds anymore. This is the technique, this is the method. By realizing. But that is not enough. Simply by stopping the bad deeds that you have committed, not to repeat, still you are not saved. Then, from that day onward, there are two things you have to do. Here, the Buddha did not recommend for us to go and pray to anybody, or to go and perform various kind of religious rites and rituals to avoid the effects of the bad deeds that you have done, or to torture your physical body. So this method also still common in certain countries. Even in Malaysia also there are some people who believe this. By suffering or torturing their physical body, such as burning or starving without taking food, that they will be able to get rid of certain bad deeds or the bad karmas they have committed. And this method was condemned by the Buddha. In the first sermon, first discourse, he mentioned this. He says, if you want to lead a proper religious life, or righteous way of life, or noble life, there are two things for you to avoid. What are those two things? Not to indulge too much. You had to carry on your way of life with some sort of contentment, satisfaction. In other words, not to become slaves to your own senses or sensual pleasure. Not to be crazy for worldly or sensual pleasure. This is one aspect. But you can lead a moderate life. You can live as gentlemen, not as slaves to any religion. You can lead a normal life, but there must be a limit. And the other aspect is not to torture your physical body, thinking that you will be able to get rid of all the evil deeds that you have committed, and through these practices, one day, that you can find out your final salvation also. Now this is the first advice the Buddha has given us. Therefore we never believe that by torturing our physical body that we can become holy or we can wash away the sins committed by us. That is not the Buddhist attitude. And there are certain religious groups, especially in India, they believe that by observing complete silence without talking for a certain period or throughout their life, that they will be able to get rid of all their evil deeds that they have committed through their tongue. That is the punishment. Buddhism never recognized this method because mouth is not responsible for that. Mind is responsible. If you want to punish torture, so you must punish your mind. The meditation is a real punishment to our mind. How? When we meditate, we arrest our mind without allowing this mind to run here and there to grasp various objects, to create temptation or to entertain or to disturb the mind. Because the mind naturally likes to catch all sort of external object through the senses, five senses. But when we meditate, the mind cannot do that. So mind is under house arrest now. Cannot run here and there. That is the punishment. This is a training period. So we train and train and tame and tame. After that we culture that mind. Then the development takes place. Otherwise there is no development in that mind. So mental development means a strengthening the mental energy to cultivate certain good ideas which never appeared in our mind. and to maintain certain good thoughts which appeared in the mind. There are two things here. Sometimes very good ideas appear and disappear next moment, we forget. So when once we develop our mind, we can maintain such good thoughts. Again, by using that mental energy, we try to guard our mind without allowing such evil thoughts to appear. When we come to know certain evil thoughts, just like jealousy or anger or temptation for certain thing, then immediately we can eradicate such thoughts from the mind. If the mind is weak, we cannot do that. We entertain, we nurture them, we develop further such thoughts in our mind. We never observe whether these things are good or bad. By neglecting all these methods introduced by the Buddha, actually what we are doing as Buddhist practitioners, just try to follow certain beliefs and traditions just to satisfy our emotion, our worldly needs. But religion is not for that purpose. There are so many other methods for us to adopt to gain our worldly satisfaction. Religion is for something else. And what is that? To train that mind. Because there is no another method to train the mind. Science also cannot train the mind. By learning everything under the sun and the moon, we cannot train the mind. We create more confusion, or we can become skeptics, stubbornness, egoism. These are the things we develop in the mind. We become very proud. But when once we train that mind, such thoughts we never develop in the mind, because we know these things are wrong. So how can we depend on another person, either the Buddha or God or any other supernatural living beings in this world, who can train our mind? We have never heard so far. So if we want to train our mind, we had to struggle for that. We had to work for that. A God or the Buddha cannot come and inject something into our mind to train you. But by following certain advice, guidelines given by the Buddha, because he has given all the necessary advice through his own experience, he has done, experienced, and realized this is the method. So there is no place for any supernatural living being or God to do anything with our good and bad karmas. They cannot handle this. They have no rights or authority, or it is impossible for them to do any changes. If I have committed sins, I am responsible for that. Reaction or the effect or the consequences are natural. Action itself creates the effect. There is no another person to handle this. But by realizing this situation, we act wisely. So just now I mentioned how to do that. First thing, we had to stop certain bad things that we have done, not to repeat. Second step, try to do more and more good deeds. That means meritorious deeds. Not enough. Still, uncertainty of our mind, that dangerous situation remains. We can do a lot of good deeds, but the mind is not reliable. At any moment, the mind can change the mental attitude. That mind is still subjected to external and internal influence. Then change the mental attitude. We have noticed this situation. Some people whom we have regarded as very religious, well educated, and very cultured and understanding people, under certain circumstances, how they have changed their mental attitude, their mentality, their way of life. How many changes have taken place in their mind? Sometimes they become worse than ordinary people, uneducated, irreligious people. This situation is very common. That is the uncertainty of the mind. So what is happening at the moment? We behave as cultured, religious, or good people by controlling our weaknesses. But all the weaknesses still remains in the mind. We keep them under control. When circumstances arise, again, the sediments which remains in the mind stir. Then we behave as an ordinary human beings at that time. Forget our education, forget our religious background, forget our culture, then can become very dangerous, very fierce, very cruel, very cunning, very selfish. Later, regret. Now let us take certain stories. Many people who have violated, created so many bad deeds, later, by realizing that this way of life is wrong, then decided to change their way of life. Emperor Ashoka in India, who lived 226 years, I think, after the Buddha. He was a very wicked ruler who invaded so many other kingdoms and occupied by massacring thousands and thousands of innocent human beings. Later, a realization appeared in his mind. The nature of his cruelty, selfishness, and the enormous miseries and sufferings and atrocities, disaster that he has created, he contemplated very deeply. So when he was thinking, one day he saw a young monk, and he was sitting in his palace, very calm and serene, pleasing to his eyes. He was not a Buddhist. He was watching. Then asked somebody to go and call him. Then asked him to sit down and had a talk. Then asked him to tell him, actually, what is this way of life? And what is this religion? Then he told him, I have not learned very much. My knowledge is very, very limited. Only one stanza. This stanza also you can find in Dhammapada. He said, I know only this much. Appamado amata padam, pamado macchuno padam. Appamatta namiyanti, ye pamatta yatha mata. I know only this much. Because this is the language they used at that time. Meaning, appamado amatapada. One who acts diligently, mindfully, wisely. He can find out immortality. Amata never dies. Pamado macchuno pada. One who neglects all his duties and lead a very lazy, useless life by neglecting all the important duties. He had to face death again and again. He always died. Appamado amatapadang pamado macchunopadang. Appamatta namiyanti. One who never neglects all his duties and who leads a righteous, reasonable, harmless life never dies. But one who neglects all these duties always face this miserable death. Then the king started to think very deeply. He analyzed this saying, philosophized it. He realized, time has come for me to change my way of life. Then he has given order to stop the war and return the kingdoms that he has occupied. Then became a Buddhist. Not only just to follow the Buddha's teaching, he knew that it is his duty to introduce this religion, this peace message of the Buddha. India is such a big country. People in other part of the country still never heard anything about the Buddha or Buddhism. So he has sent missionaries to introduce this peace message. But he is the only ruler in that country who has given a strict order not to disturb the followers of other religions. He has given full support to all the other existing religions. If you happen to visit Saranath, Benares, India, Asoka pillars, this is 2,300 years old. Asoka pillars, stone, certain words engraved there. Instruction given by him for all the Buddhist missionaries who go out to introduce the message of the Buddha. You can see it, still there. He says, when you go out to introduce Buddhism, please remember not to disturb, not to ridicule, not to accuse, not to condemn the other existing religion. If you do so, remember, you disgrace your own religion. See how deep and how reasonable is his understanding. So he has dedicated whole life to promote Buddhism, completely change his way of life. Later he got this name, Dharma Asoka. Dharma Asoka. Asoka means one who never worries. Dharma Asoka. Formerly no Dharma, only Asoka. Before that his name was Chanda Asoka. Chanda means cruel. cruel Asoka. People address him as cruel Asoka. After becoming a Buddhist, he became Dharma Asoka. So he had complete confidence that he has dedicated his whole life to train people, to culture people, to civilize people, to lead a religious life. All these are meritorious deeds. The evil deeds that he has committed earlier, from the Buddhist point of view, still we cannot say that the Buddha has forgiven him or washed away all his sins just because he has become a Buddhist. Buddhism cannot say like this, it is wrong. Then how are we going to define? He has done more meritorious deeds. In the end, he also became a monk. And he died as a monk. Now this is the Buddhist attitude. Now which is more meaningful, justifiable, reasonable? Think for a while. After committing all the evils and bad deeds, go and worship and pray and ask forgiveness. Or stop all the bad deeds and do more and more good deeds and service to others. Which way is more reasonable and justifiable and practical? Anyone can go and pray after committing evil. But how many people can stop their evil deeds and do more and more good deeds? Let us take another story. Angulimala, a robber, a bandit. He was misled by his teacher. He was a very understanding, very intelligent young boy. Misled by his teacher and asked him to go and kill 1,000 human beings. He agreed and he had done this. More than 1,000 he has killed. So the Buddha was there. So he wanted to go and see him to find out what is wrong with him. So, after listening to the Buddha, he realized that his way of life is wrong. He was misled by others and he wanted to become one of his followers. So he followed the Buddha and became a monk. That you have done may submerge, but these things can influence the mind very easily. So, at the dying moment, such karmic thoughts get the first chance to appear in the mind as last thoughts. Now that is called kamma. After that, kamma nimitta, indications of the effect of this particular karmic thought which appeared in the mind. What sort of result that we are going to experience, either good result or bad result. Or what is the nature, in which way we are going to experience. That is called indications of the karma which appear in the mind, which can be conditions, good and bad effect. Immediately after that, the last one appears, that is called Gati Nimitta, destiny. Here already finalized. External or sources have nothing to do with this. Usually when people are going to die, others go and convert because we can send him to heaven very easily. But nobody knows. After that he used his full effort, day and night, to lead a very noble life by maintaining all the good qualities and virtues and observing all the precepts. In the end, he has attained sainthood, or he become an arahant. A person who has murdered more than 1,000 human beings become an arahant or saint. Is it possible? But we have to analyze this kind of a story very carefully. In his case, he has cultivated his religious way of life during his previous birth. But at that particular life, he was misled by his teacher. Just to respect his teacher, he agreed, but not for his own benefit. He did not develop cruelty, selfishness or anger or any evil thought in his mind. But even then, no one can kill another living being without creating one of these evil thoughts. Whatever may be the purpose, at that moment he used that mental attitude. Therefore it is not just what you call justifiable, or no one can forgive, or no one can say there is nothing wrong. Since he has cultivated his religious background, way of life, earlier, that is how he had the chance to become an arahant or a saint. Otherwise, an ordinary man who had not prepared his religious way of life, background, earlier, not so easy to jump at once to become a saint or an arahant. Here, still there is a chance. Although we have committed certain bad deeds or sins or bad karma, and certain hidden good karmas which remains in our unconscious mind. After cultivating more and more good karmas again within this lifetime, the previous karmas and the present karmas jointly support us. then we will be able to overcome the effect of the bad karmas or the evil deeds that we have committed. Now this is the method. But if that person remains within the cycle of birth and death in samsara, still there is no guarantee. The bad effects of the evil deeds that he has committed never disturb him, because still he has not eradicated the germs, karmic germs that he has deposited in the mind, waiting for a chance. But if he knows how to handle his way of life without committing more and more bad deeds, more and more bad karma, and if he can continue his way of life by doing more and more good deeds and accumulating more and more good karma, and still the effects of certain bad things they have committed earlier, no chance to affect him, no chance to catch him, to attack. Then one day he will be able to attain arahanthood just like Angulimala. Then stop rebirth. If there is no more rebirth for this person, then all the good and bad karmas, both that he has accumulated, automatically extinguish. Now you have learned how to forgive your own sins. So you are your savior, and you are the only one who can forgive your sins. And this is the method. So what is the method? By stopping all your bad deeds, by cultivating your way of life, by doing more and more good deeds from that day onward, then you will become a noble person. That is the answer. How can we overcome evil deeds without depending on God? Next one, number 8. So do you want me to continue or stop? Now 8 o'clock, 9. Started about 8, isn't it? Continue or stop? Okay. The Buddha advised us to take refuge in ourselves. How can we do this? The Buddha advised us to take refuge in ourselves. How can we do this? Then why do you say Buddham Saranam Gacchami? I take refuge in the Buddha. What is the meaning of taking refuge? We take refuge in God, the Buddha, or some other devas, or supernatural living beings. due to various reasons, not only one or two. The answer was given by the Buddha in the same book, Dhammapada. He says, Bahumve saranang yanti pabbhatani vananicha arama rukkha chetyani manussa bhaya tajjita. This is the reason. He says, people take refuge or go and worship or pray. There are so many objects. Devas, spirits, trees, jungles, rivers, caves, images. We are doing this. We take refuge. So why do we want to take refuge like this? Manussa bhaya tajjita. All those who maintain some sort of fear, insecurity in their mind, they are the one who go and worship and take refuge in it. It is true. If there is no fear in our mind, we never worship, never go and take refuge. Then why do we maintain fear? What is the cause? There are many reasons. Due to our stupidity, ignorance, we maintain fear. Let us take small children. They are scared of so many things because they cannot understand. They are scared of strangers also. They go and hide. They don't like to come out at night time, fear. So most of our fear and insecurity and uncertainty, suspicion, we maintain in our mind due to our ignorance. It's a very, very grave, very deep, our ignorance. And because of this ignorance, we create so many imaginations in our mind. These imaginations aggravate the situation, create hallucination, vision, sound. Imaginations create all those things. Then we create cock and bull stories. We have seen the devil, we have seen the ghost, and we have seen this and that, and all are imaginations. So fear is based on this. And we have very strong craving. Human beings have more craving. Craving for living, craving for pleasure, these two things. So we started worshipping and we started to take refuge in all those things because of these two. We like to have a long life. We go and pray, craving. We like to have a healthy life. Go and pray. Craving. We want to enjoy our life. Go and pray. Craving. Can you say no? Now you can understand the nature of Buddhism. In the name of religion, any religion, we perform all sorts of prayers, offerings, worshipping ceremonies based on this. The motivation, the purpose is craving. Then let us come back to the Buddha. In the same line, he says, Netang ko saranang khemang, netang saranam uttamang, netang saranam agam, sabba dukkha pamucchati. Remember, by taking refuge or by praying like this, no one can get rid of their fear, their suffering. But they can create psychological effect. They feel some sort of relief after praying and worshipping because they depend on someone to create some sort of security feeling in the mind. Oh, I pray, therefore I am protected. Psychological. To many people this is very important. Therefore I don't want to discourage those who want to pray, please do so. For you that is very important. To me it is not important. Because I know what is Buddhism. So I don't want to mislead you, asking you not to do such thing. But there will be a day, after learning, thinking, realizing, then you will come to know, yes. But before that, please don't stop all these things. You have to suffer more, if you stop all these things at once. So, some people don't like to keep certain images at home when certain misfortune or unfortunate things happen to that family. They think because of this image is responsible for that. See, the human folly, the nature of human folly or the ignorance. What that image can do. Image is a symbol we keep at home. If we know how to make use of that image, it's very useful. Every time when you look at the serenity and cheerfulness, calmness, gives some sort of consolation to calm your mind. Again, if you can concentrate more to understand why we want to keep this image here, who this person is, think deeply. Then analyze the qualities and the virtues and the wisdom and enlightenment and purity, then give more confidence. Then you make up your mind, oh, I also must follow. Try to follow this method. Then you get confidence, inspiration. So image is very important, but you do not know how to make use of the image. You keep the image just to go and worship. That's all. That is not enough. That is why the Buddha says here, simply by worshipping or praying or taking refuge in another object, don't think that you are completely free from all your suffering. Netang ko saranang kemang netang saranam. Then, what is the method? Yocha buddhancha dhammancha sanghancha saranangato chattari arya satchani samma panyaya passati. This is the method. By realizing the perfection, the holiness, enlightenment, the nature of wisdom of the Buddha, we take the Buddha to create that inspiration in our mind. This is the real meaning of taking refuge in the Buddha. That is why you say Buddham Saranang Gacchami. We take refuge in the Dhamma. What is Dhamma? Dhamma is the universal, natural law that which exists in this world. This Dhamma is not created by anybody. It is not a property of any religion. And we are subject, part and parcel of this Dhamma. Man is Dhamma. Dhamma is man. Dhamma is not an external object. If you know how to analyze man, there you can see Dhamma. If you know how to understand the Dhamma, man is there. Then you get confident, oh, this is the nature of existence. This is the cause of changes. This is the cause of decay. This is the cause of suffering. This is the cause of pleasure. And this is the cause of disappearance or decay. That is Dhamma. So when you take refuge in the Dhamma, you harmonize, you cooperate with the existing universal law. Then, chattari arya satchani samma panyaya passati. If you can go further, try to analyze Four Noble Truths. In simple language, what is the meaning of this four words? I don't want to use the textual interpretation. In simple language, even children also can understand. First thing, we admit that each and every person who exists in this world, physically and mentally, face so many problems and sufferings and worries and disappointments and unsatisfactoriness. It is true, no one can say no. That is the first item. Second item, well, if there is no satisfaction, if we cannot satisfy with our body, with our mind, and with the world and the worldly conditions, then there must be a cause, a reason for that. then what is that reason? Why do we suffer? Why do we grumble? Why do we cry? Why do we fight? There must be a reason. We know these things are very unpleasant. The people have created their own imagination. Some people say, oh, all these living beings or especially human beings suffer because of their original sin. But this interpretation is not satisfactory. Because those who have not committed such original sin also suffer. And they never talk anything about animals, that animals also committed original sin. But they also suffer from everything what we suffer from. Plant life also suffer. I don't think plant life committed any original sin. Sicknesses, old age and decay and everything. Plant life also we can see. Then what is the cause? You cannot satisfy with the original sin. Then others say, scientists, rationalists and free thinkers and philosophers, they say, oh, these things are natural. That's all. They don't want to go beyond that. Let it be anything but natural. Forget about the rest. But the Buddha did not stop simply saying, oh, these things are natural. He says, the main cause of all our sufferings, unsatisfactoriness, unhappiness, disappointment, clashes, calamities is nothing but our craving, our selfishness. Now that is the meaning of second noble truth, understanding of this. We suffer today because of our own craving, that's all. But we blame others. You can understand this the very day when this selfishness or craving is completely eradicated from the mind. That day you can understand. Because after that, no more sufferings, no more worries, no more disturbances, no more insecurity feeling, free. Then the third one, after eradicating this selfishness or craving, we experience wonderful freedom, relief, happiness. This is the third noble truth. So we use another name for that. What is that? Nibbana. This is called Nirvana. No more suffering. But your Nirvana is something else. You want to go and enjoy your life there. Because other religions talk a lot about happiness and pleasure and eternal, everlasting and this and that. A lot of sugar-coated words are there. But Buddhism, the Buddha has revealed, where there are no sufferings and miseries and worries and problems and calamities and conflicts and disturbances, it is called unconditioned state. Now under conditions. What are these conditions? Elements and energies and energies and energies and elements and energy and internal, external conditions. The frictions and troubles and calamities take place because of this. And when these conditions are no more, then it will become unconditioned. So nirvana is called unconditioned state. No more changes. Not so easy to understand, my dear friend. This is Buddhism. Then the last one, then how to gain it? How to experience it? What is the method? The method introduced by the Buddha is entirely different from all the other religions. To others, religion means pray and worship, that's all. And do some ceremonies, rituals and ceremonies. That is religion. Of course, there are certain precepts, commandments and morals and ethics also, but that is not enough. Then the Buddha says, this is the method. This method is called noble path. Four and four, altogether four noble truths, again analyze. Eight noble paths. So one who can lead, follow this method, this path, lead towards that final goal, to see the end of suffering. Now there is no difficulty to understand Four Noble Truths. Here the Buddha says, if you can understand these Four Noble Truths, you can see the end of all your suffering, and after that no more fear in that mind. Before that, by keeping your fear, by keeping your craving and selfishness in your mind, whatever you do, you can go and pray to anybody in this universe, still you are not free from suffering or fear. So, the question is, how can we take refuge in us? This is the last advice given by the Buddha before his passing away in Mahaparinibbana Sutta. Attadipa bhikkhave viharata atta sarana ananya sarana. Last words. Take refuge in you. Not necessary to take refuge in others. Atta sarana ananya sarana. What is the meaning? The real meaning is, you have to develop your self-confidence. Without developing your self-confidence, you never gain, never reach the final goal. This is not only for your religious life, for your family life, married life, for your business, whatever you do, whatever you handle. There must be some sort of confidence in you. You have to do things according to your conviction. But you have no confidence. Always depend on others. If that confidence is there, I can find out my salvation. Why should I depend on others? How can others give my salvation? Others can provide worldly things. They cannot do anything beyond that. So, this confidence is the most important things in our life. To do anything, and we will succeed. This confidence support all the other mental energies and mental faculties for us to go ahead with our work. Because halfway we never give up. We have already created determination in our mind. Of course, earlier we must know what is the correct method. After taking a wrong method and create strong determination, we can invite more troubles and more headache. That is why it is necessary to learn self-confidence. So taking refuge in the Buddha is to gain more confidence, to develop this, get some support, psychological support. We take refuge in devas and ghosts and spirit and others for a worldly material thing, some sort of temporary satisfaction. We experience some good result, only for the time being, not lasting. Now see the difference now, 3 stages. We take refuge in us, that is self-confidence. So that is more important than any other kind of refuge. We take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, to create some sort of inspiration to guide us. That is also important. Then we take refuge in devas and brahmas and spirit for our worldly thing. Experience little bit, experience or not, there is no guarantee. Some sort of relief for the time being, but again we have to suffer. 3 stages. Akasattha Bhummattha Devanaga Mahiddhika Punyantang Anumoditva Chiram Rakkantu Loka Sadhanam Devo Vasatu Kalena Sastra Sampatti Etuche Pito Bhavatu Loko Che Raja Bhavatu Dhammiko Idang Me Jatinam Hotu Sukita Huntu Jatayo Imina Punya Kammena Mami Bala Samagamo Satang Samagamo Hotu Yava Nibbana Pattiya.